Hello, welcome back to Appreciating Theatre. Today we have got an important phase in the evolution of theatre, which is called decadence in theatre. Actually, this should have come after Shakespearean theatre. Since I was not able to collect the material, so I was not able to present it at that time. So when you learn this part, you should be very sure about its place in history. Decadence emerges after Shakespearean theatre. So we are going back in time. So decadence means decay, jeernada. That's the meaning of decadence. Post-Shakespearean dramatists. Introduction. Post-Shakespearean drama or Jacobean drama, that is the drama of the age of King James I, that is from 1603 to 1625, was a decadent form of the drama of Shakespeare and his contemporaries. So this decadence is happening, or this decay or degeneration of drama happens immediately after Shakespeare or Jacobean drama. The Elizabethan age was the golden age of English drama. With the turn of the century, the drama in English or England also took a turn. So after Shakespeare, Elizabethan age, which is also known as the golden age of English drama, we find a gradual decaying or gradual going back, or the standard is somehow coming down. That's why it is known as decadence. It does not mean that there were no dramatists left. Of course, there were some dramatists, but what happens was, in comparison with Shakespeare and Marlowe and all that, they were somehow insignificant. There certainly was a large number of them, but none of them could come anywhere near Shakespeare. So that is the reason. Shakespeare and Marlowe, they were all great dramatists, incomparable. So naturally the people who came after them were very, very insignificant or less important. Just as after Chaucer, poetry in England suffered a decline. Similarly, after Shakespeare had given his best, that is after the 16th century, drama also suffered a decline. Just like in poetry after Chaucer, you find there is kind of vacuum. Similarly, in theatre we have a kind of vacuum coming after Shakespeare. With the passage of time, it grew more and more decadent till with James Shirley, that is 1596 to 1666, in the age of Charles I, the old kind of drama expired and even theatres were closed in 1642 by Puritans. So you find that after Shakespeare and his group, gradually drama is almost coming to an end. After King James or Charles I, during his time there was also there was a playwright called James Shirley, and it came almost to an end when the theatres were closed in 1642 by some Puritans in Christianity who are against drama. Long says it was inevitable that the drama should decline after Shakespeare, for the simple reason that there was no other great enough to fill his place. So according to the critic Long, Mr. Long, he says it was somehow inevitable that drama should decline after Shakespeare, because there was nobody as great as Shakespeare after that. Factors responsible for the decline of drama during the post-Shakespearean period. So around there are 9 points which we will see in detail. First one is the change of patrons. Second is downfall in dramatic technique. Third is moral decline. Fourth, poor characterization. 5, unnatural themes. 6, other channels of expression. 7, lack of genius. 8, opposition by the Puritans. 9, exhaustion of creative spirit. We will see them one by one. First, the change of patrons. One of the reasons for the decadence in Jacobean or post-Shakespearean drama was its loss of national spirit and patronage. So, till then, drama was seen as something very classic, and it was meant for the hi-fi people, the knights, kings, and all that. So, there are naturally a lot of supporters and patrons, people who sponsor. In the Elizabethan period, drama was patronized by feudal lords, so they were very rich people. So there was no lack of funds. From the time of James I, dramatists depended on the king and the queen and royal domination. So after that, we find the king or the queen themselves, they were patronizing or supporting theatre. Dramatists wrote plays to cater to the taste of the court, so the theatre was cut off from common life. So even during Shakespeare, you find that they were trying to please the king, queen. So he wrote a lot of historical dramas. Henry IV, Henry V, Richard II, III, Henry VI, and all that. So there are so many dramas, historical dramas written about the kings. So that itself clearly shows that they were patronized or supported by the kings. Then the second one is moral decline. Loss of national appeal was the growth of immorality in the drama. So naturally there was another lack of morality coming in. So the standard of the play itself was getting lost. So the lost standard of the audience frequenting the theatre was responsible for the steep decline of moral standards. So from the court and knights and all that, theatre came to the ordinary people. So ordinary people started going to the theatre. So naturally the standard of performance also came down. To please this riff-raff, unpleasant themes such as incest and sexual infidelity were freely adopted. Actually, riff-raff means disreputable or undesirable people. That is people of low level, low class people. So in order to please them, they had to go to their level. So unpleasant themes such as incest. Incest means having sex between close relatives, and sexual infidelity, that is extramarital or premarital sex. So they were all resorting to this kind of low themes. Chastity was a virtue scoffed at by dramatists. That means the marital trust was not considered as something virtuous. So chastity is actually purity kept, or the faithfulness between the couples. So that was not considered as a virtue. The standard of morality suffered, and with it came the decline of drama. So even the morality was suffering because of the themes representing the theatre. Third one is unnatural themes. The post-Shakespearean dramatists were interested in dramatizing unnatural themes like illicit and incestuous love captured their imagination, and such subjects as the life of prostitutes and whores began to have an appeal to them, as can be seen from the titles of the plays produced during this period. So you find there were going to the immoral side, even to illicit sexual behavior. Illicit means not accepted by society. Some of the titles of the play themselves shows how the theme is, like the White Devil, the Honest Whore. Whore means prostitute. So some of the titles were like that, popular plays of that time. So that shows the moral decline. In the field of tragedy, dramatists were attracted by the stories of murder, horror and blood. So the dramatists of this period had a morbid taste for murder and madness. So that shows how base or low class they became. In order to entertain the people, they would have stories of murder, horror and blood and all that. Webster and Turner revelled in bloodshed and horror in their tragedies. Marston, Ford, Shirley were deliberate dramatists, sensation mongers. So in order to create or to make sensational themes, they resorted to this kind of techniques. For this lack of genius, it was inevitable that the drama should decline after Shakespeare, for the simple reason that there was no other great enough to fill this place. We have already seen that. Just as Chaucer's successors failed to maintain the greatness of Chaucer, Shakespeare's successor had little of the genius of Shakespeare. This we have already seen. In the hands of his successors, comedy became eccentric and tragedy lost its epic grandeur. Ben Jonson failed in the field of tragedy. So whether it was tragedy or comedy, both had lost their greatness or their essence. 5. Exhaustion of creative spirit. Exhaustion means ending up. It's no more. So the creative spirit was lost. Shakespeare, in spite of borrowing his material from different sources, had the creative imagination, and in his hands the borrowed material suffered a sea change into something rich and strange. So though Shakespeare depended on other sources for his dramas, he made great changes in his theme. That means he added his own genius to that creation. After Shakespeare, this creative spirit in drama began to decline, and all that the dramatists could do was to attempt satirical comedies with a good deal of criticism about the prevailing tendencies of the time. So the only theme that was left after Shakespeare was to attempt comedies including satire and all that, trying to ridicule, make fun of the society or criticize the prevailing tendencies of that time. Critical and creative genius may sometimes appear together, but it is more usual for a critical spirit to appear when the creative spirit has begun to be exhausted, and the highest creative genius is, as a rule, not critical. Ben Jonson's comedies are critical and exhibit a woeful lack of creative spirit. So when you are intending to criticize, you find your creative spirit will be gradually disappearing. That's meaning your critical and creative genius may sometimes appear together. That is very rare. 6th is downfall in dramatic technique. The post-Shakespearean dramatists showed an advance in construction and sometimes in dialogue, yet they could not keep up the mighty line of Marlowe, and their blank verse became weak and vapid. The blank verse of Beaumont and Fletcher is similarly inclined to a free use of weak and feminine endings. So the very language of the playwrights suffered, their dialogue. They were not able to keep up with the strong and mighty dialogues of Shakespeare or Marlowe. Here, vapid means uninspired, not very inspiring. So their free verse or their language was not very powerful and not very inspiring. The mighty line of Marlowe and terse verse of Shakespeare in the prime are lost. So the powerful lines of Marlowe and also cryptic poetic lines of Shakespeare were also lost during this time. As the 15th century followers of Chaucer failed to retain the charm of their master's versification, so the later dramatists were quite unable to recapture the vital quality of dramatic blank verse. So there was a total failure even in the very language or the free verse used by the playwrights. They were not able to match the classic lines of Shakespeare or Marlowe. 7. Poor characterization. The post-Shakespearean dramatists had little skill in creating characters. They could not create new characters. They had certain stock characters which they represented again and again in their place. So there was no original characters in their place. There are some stock characters, mostly they were all stereotypes. The whore, the lustful king, the adventurous panderer were their wooden characters, and they repeated them with mechanical regularity in their place. So some of the stock characters were the whore, the prostitute, the lustful king, a king who would be running after women, the adventurous panderer. Panderer is someone who is always trying to please others out of his ulterior motive. So some of these stock characters were repeated throughout the play. That is, there are no original characters in them. 8. Other channels of expression. Dramatic literature suffered a setback due to the growing popularity of poetry and novels as medium of expressing literary thoughts. So during this time, other forms of literary literature were dominating, like novel and poetry. So drama was somehow relegated to the second line. Those two forms of literature proved more fascinating to others, and instead of diverting the energy to drama, which was on its way to decline, they directed their thoughts and ideas to the field of poetry and fiction. So here you find drama is suffering a setback, while poetry and fiction or even novels were somehow becoming more popular. The last one is opposition by the Puritans. The Puritan opposition to drama is also responsible for the decline of drama during this age. Since the drama became popular in England, the Puritans waged a war against it. Here, Puritans means the orthodoxy. In every religion, you find some people who are always trying to keep with the old. So they look at everything new as evil. Just like when radio came, they thought it was devil's horn. When TV came, they said it is devil's. Internet also is devil's invention. So that is the way Puritans always look at it. Any new invention, they always look at it with suspicion. So they regard the drama and all other forms of entertainment as the devil's work, to be avoided by all men who sought salvation. So this was their stand. The drama is something belonging to the devil and trying to destroy human beings and all that. So the faithful, the good believers should avoid, otherwise they will go to hell. In 1579, Stephen Gosson directed his School of Abuse. In 1583, Philip Stubbs claimed biblical support for the condemnation of drama. So here, these are some of the Puritans who tried to oppose drama. In 1632, Prynne attacked the stage. In 1642, only 26 years after Shakespeare's death, both the House of Parliament voted to close the theatres as breeders of lies and immorality. So in 1642, after 26 years of Shakespeare's death, you find in England at least the theatres were closed by enacting a law in the House of Parliament. So that was a great tragedy. Now we are going to have a look at some of the dramatists of that period, decadence. The dramatists of the post-Shakespearean period can be divided into two classes as follows: the satiric group and the dramatists of the old school. And we have some 10 playwrights. They are Ben Jonson, Thomas Dekker, George Chapman, Thomas Heywood, John Marston, John Webster, Thomas Middleton, Francis Beaumont, Cyril Toner, and John Fletcher. Of course, we are not going to see all of these playwrights in detail. We will see mainly one, that is Ben Jonson from 1573 to 1637. So his full name is Benjamin Jonson. Ben Jonson was born in 1573 in Westminster and followed the trade of his stepfather, a bricklayer. So he was a mason by trade. He then became a soldier serving Low Countries. After that he became a soldier. From this he turned to acting and writing plays. In 1617 he was appointed poet to the king. So his rise to the stardom of poetry or even playwright was very, very fast. So you find that in 1617 he is appointed as the poet to the king, which is a great honor, the royal poet. His best works were produced between 1603 and 1615 at the close of King James' reign. Ben Jonson was considered undisputed ruler of English literature. Of course, he is a great person in the world of English literature. For Jonson, chief aim of literature was to instruct, that is to teach. Ben Jonson's first play, The Case is Altered, is purely experimental in character. Every man in his humour stormed his career into popularity and success. So this is one play that made him very popular, that is Every Man in His Humour. This play of his is first of 3 satires. Its special aim was to ridicule the humours of the city. Humours of the city means the funny side of the city. The second, Cynthia's Revels, satirizes the humours of the court. So satirize means kind of looking at it with a scorn or trying to find fault, ridicule. And the third one is The Poet Taster. The result of his quarrel with his contemporaries was levelled at the false standards of the poets of the age. So in this third one he was trying to ridicule his own companions, other poets and writers. Every Man Out of His Humour is a comical satire. It is an English play full of the atmosphere of the contemporary London. The 3 well-known of Jonson's comedies are Volpone or The Fox, Epicon or The Silent Woman, and The Alchemist. So these are some of the well-known plays of Ben Jonson. The Bartholomew Affair is the most expansive of Jonson's mature satiric comedies, the most English in atmosphere. Another play is The Bartholomew Fair. The Devil is an Ass, 1616. The Stable of News, 1625. The New Inn or The Light Heart, 1629. And A Tale of Tub, 1633, show signs of wickedness. Besides these comedies, Jonson also wrote 2 great tragedies, Sejanus and Catiline. Jonson had his own theory of comedy in which he claimed that comedy must above all things be realistic, and its aim should be to hold a mirror up to nature for the bettering of morals. So according to him, comedy is trying to mirror the society, and its aim was to improve the morals of the people, morality. According to him, the inclusion of tragic element in comedy was not permissible. So, according to him, comedy means should be pure comedy. There should not be an element of tragedy here. To him, the purpose of comedy is cathartic and corrective, just like in Greek theatre, cathartic, that is giving vent to your feelings, that is catharsis. As a dramatist, he was a classicist and stood against the romantic comedy of the Elizabethan age and advocated the practice of realistic comedy with a marked accent on realism and satire. So, he was also an advocate of realism. Ben Jonson died in 1637. The epitaph inscribed on his grave, "O rare Ben Jonson," expresses his greatness as a man, poet, and dramatist. We are going to see other playwrights and some other plays. George Chapman, Bussy d'Amboise, Revenge of Bussy d'Amboise, Caesar and Pompey, and the Tragedy of Chabot. John Marston, Antonius and Melida, and Antonio's Revenge. Thomas Middleton, A Trick to Catch the Old One, A Mad World, My Masters, and A Chaste Maid in Cheapside. Cyril Tourneur, The Revenger's Tragedy and The Atheist Tragedy. And Thomas Dekker, Shoemaker's Holiday and Honest Whore. Thomas Heywood, A Woman Killed with Kindness and King Kindness. John Webster, The White Devil and the Duchess of Malfi. Francis Beaumont and John Fletcher, The Night of a Burning Pestle, The Maid's Tragedy and A King and No King, and One Tragic Comedy, Philaster. So these were some of the playwrights and their plays, and we have some pics of some of them. George Chapman, Thomas Heywood, John Fletcher, Francis Beaumont, and of course the great Ben Jonson. So with that we come to the end of Decadence in Theatre. Thank you and have a great day.